you can't possibly know whether I'm on schedule or the project's not going to be money by looking at a spreadsheet. You can't know that. That's the mindset. You can't possibly know that, and therefore shut down.
We've helped hundreds of clients build better construction companies.
We love this business, we love the people, and we've seen what running a successful, profitable business takes.
And we're sharing it all with you here on Construction Hot Takes.
All right. So the question is, who is actually managing risk? Is operations says it's finance, and finance says it's operations.
I want to ask a clarifying question since Greg likes to do that too.
Yes.
I want to clarify managing because we would say who owns the risk a lot of times, but who's managing it? Because everybody can own it and nobody's managing it. So maybe we can talk about the different types of risk and who would traditionally be responsible for managing that risk. Maybe that's a good place to start.
So I've got a little bit of insight on where this comes from. The basic premise is that we've talked about this a couple of different times, that operations and finance, or operations and accounting, have a healthy tension, sometimes unhealthy, but healthy tension is probably not a bad thing.
Adversarial relationship.
It is. We've agreed that there's an industry standard of kind of a little bit of clash there.
Yeah.
And my theory on that is based in lack of understanding and education about what the other does and how they actually are very simpatico, but they don't understand that is where I come from. I spent a lot of years arguing with finance managers and CFOs about, because as on the ops side.
Can I add one thing to that? It goes to the risk. It also comes from the fact that I may understand what the ops side does, and the ops side might understand what I do, but they might not necessarily respect it. It's a respect question that I'm as important as you, or you're as important as me in the success of this company.
Yes.
And I think that's the kind of underpinning of that. It's like, well, you wouldn't be here without me. Well, you wouldn't be here without me.
Right.
That's it.
So it's the I'm out in the field and I have mud on my boots.
And it's hot.
And it's hot, or it's wet,
cold.
It's raining, it's cold, whatever. And then a guy in loafers shows up and says, your job is failing. It's not going to make any money. And I'm going to ask, well, how do you know that? Tie guy wearing a bow tie or a necktie.
And you're going to have written on a shirt.
And you're going to say, well, and you're going to start explaining a bunch of spreadsheets that person in the field, be a superintendent or project manager, is immediately going to go, I don't have an MBA. I can't understand any of that. And you're talking down to me.
Exactly.
And you can't possibly know whether I'm on schedule or the project's not going to be money by looking at a spreadsheet. You can't know that. That's the mindset. You can't possibly know that, and therefore shut down. That's what.
So the answer to this question, the first answer anyways, who's actually managing risk, and we can talk about risk, we can talk about where you identify the risk, what is a risk, how to manage the risk. The answer to the first part of the question is everyone.
I agree with you. I couldn't agree more.
Because what you just described is risk. That's all around risk. I don't understand on the finance side that you don't know how to track your job costs in the field.
Right.
And you don't understand that I am not going to show up with a spreadsheet and help you understand anything, because that's not how you learn.
Right.
Both of those things are huge risks to a project.
Yeah. The way I approach this is that there's obviously project risk and company risk, and it all flows up to the company overall, whether you have 2 projects or 20. I don't know. I guess I have this, maybe it's a little bit of a pie in the sky. I have this vision that, it's a personal crusade of mine that you can train accounting and finance a little bit about the stresses and the sacrifices that are made in the field. And you could also train the field staff operations to understand a little bit of, data actually can help you make decisions.
I've got an analogy. I know you guys love my analogies. This one I didn't make up, but I've worked on it over the years. The great analogy for this is a point guard and a forward on a basketball team.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I've always used that to explain why both roles are important, because if you know anything about basketball, we all love sports here, you have to have both of those roles. One person scores and one person kind of manages what's happening on the court. And they're both important. It's the same thing in construction.
Yeah.
And I think if you think about it that way, it takes away the ability of you not to understand me and me not to understand you.
Mhm.
I don't do what you do, but I understand it. You
Yeah.
don't do what I do, but I understand it, or I
Yeah.
want to.
That's the goal.
That's the goal of a
Yep.
good project.
Yes.
And so back to the question, who's managing risk? All of us are. Everyone in the field and everyone in the office needs to be managing risk. If it's project risk. If it's company risk, it's probably a little bit different because the field
It's
guys.
over your pay grade if you're in the field.
Yeah,
That's not a thing.
it's not what you're paid to do.
They're not thinking about that for sure. Except when you come out there and tell them, well, okay, so we're running a CSIP on this job and you just became an insurance expert. You didn't know it.
You're right. And you forgot to tell me, or I forgot to tell you. There's also, I think there's also not institutional, there's reputational risk.
Oh, 100%.
And that is field and office. We can fall down in a job in the field, in the office, and we might not know we're going to lose money. If you fall down in the field, that client might never hire us again, and we lose our strategy to go work for a certain type of client. So that's another thing that everybody manages.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, it shows up a lot in AP and AR because we see a lot of clients where there's a good flow of information between the office and the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
An invoice has to be approved or at least checked off in some way or another by the PM or the superintendent or both. Then we have clients where that doesn't happen at all. We hear AP say, I have no idea whether that lumber was delivered or if it was all with the delivery. I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
I just know an invoice showed up. I'm going to pay it. And then we find out, well, you have a cash flow problem.
Or you double paid that invoice.
Or you
because
double
someone
paid
told me
that
it
invoice.
arrived and we reordered it.
And all of a sudden, you have financial troubles because you don't have a good process where those two systems work together. But you've got guys in the field like, I don't know anything about paying bills. Why would I know anything about that? I'm just supposed to make sure it gets stood up and built. That's what
I'm paid to build.
Yeah.
And in the office, I'd say I'm paid to track what you're building.
But so many problems come when you don't incorporate those together. So I see that almost every client we talk to in some way or another.
Yeah, we do this with all our clients here. I think one of my passions in construction is to let both sides know how important I think they are.
Mm.
And I tell every client that I have, look, if you're asking my opinion, both sides are important. I can't do my part without you, and you can't do your part without me. And let's shake hands and be friends. It doesn't always happen.
I'm working with a client right now where there is sincere clashing going on between operations and accounting, and both gentlemen are well educated, proud. They both know what they're doing, and in this case, it's almost it's not a personality conflict because they like each other, but they have some respect for each other, but they both think each other's full of shit too at the same time. It's very interesting.
That is interesting.
So it's like you could just see them shut down when it's like, well, he does this and he should do that. Well, he does the other thing and he should be doing it a different way. And they just cannot. So we're working on that. I'm gonna put him in one of those you seen those shirts when like siblings are fighting and you make them wear the same shirt, walk around the house in it. I'm thinking about that.
I thought you were gonna say like when you're a kid, you put them and make them wrestle out on the floor.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually,
Because that
one of the guys
could work.
actually he's a little bit more aggressive in being okay with confrontation.
Mm.
The other one doesn't. He's not anti. He doesn't lean into it as much. So one of them, he's constantly talking about getting boxing gloves out.
Yeah.
He's like, let's just get the gloves out. Let's get the
We
gloves
should
out.
get them the big Hulk.
Oh
gloves.
Yeah.
Hulk smash.
Give them each a pair.
Or the sumo wrestler suits where they just
Bouncing
bump into each other and figure it out. But it's an interesting question, who actually manages risk? I think there is multiple answers here, but I think the biggest answer is, like we said, it's really everyone, but
Everybody should be.
right. That's what I was about to say.
Well, I think
Everyone should be, but are they?
everyone
Is the
should
question
be,
we should
but
ask.
also everyone should know. It's a big machine with lots of cogs in it, so you should understand which cog you are. Like in this particular process, I happen to be a little cog, but it's important I'm there, or else these two things don't talk to each other. In this other process, I happen to be the bigger cog, and I need you to be the smaller cog, but it's important you're there, or the mechanics don't work.
Well, that's a good point, because the other thing about risk is not only should you be doing it, and do you know what part of the risk you have, but are you doing your part to manage the risk that belongs to you?
Yeah, right.
Right? Like I'd be remiss in my job if I knew we were upside down on a job and I just didn't tell anyone.
Mhm.
because I just don't think they want to hear it. Right. That's me controlling or managing my part of the risk. What happens to it
Right.
and the rest of the machine outside of my part is kind of not up to me. That's why everyone should be doing their part.
Right. Well, I mean, well, you know as well as I do, you had this role. You're looking at the finances of the project and or the company, and you're sweating it. You're looking at your whip, and you're like, "Oh my god,
I'm sweating right now just talking about it.
We're
because
cost
it
in
can be
excess, and we're never going to catch up. I can tell. I can just look at this and know." And then you call your project manager, your superintendent, and you check in. Hey, how's it going out there? And they're like, "Peachy keen. It's
It's
awesome.
great.
I mean, we're killing it out here, and the owner loves us." You're like, fuck.
Which probably means you gave away a bunch of free work. You're not getting your change order signed,
Right.
and someone's not turning in their timesheets because you haven't even noticed.
I've often wondered, is it a matter of so this I understand the basic stresses of that, but like is the thought process lack of control? Like I can see it happening on paper. I can see the numbers, they don't lie. I can run this 6 ways from Sunday, it's gonna come out the same. And like you almost maybe even know, like maybe I even have some ideas on how we could bring this back into the landing zone here. And but you don't have the authority, the influence, or maybe you don't know. Maybe you're like, I don't know how to pour concrete. I can't pour concrete faster. Is that where that comes from? That stress?
I think it depends on. It's funny you said that because I was thinking this the other day. We talk about this kind of global terms, but it really is, as one of our colleagues here loves to say, it depends. Because if you're a small subcontractor and you live and die by every project, the stress of that is we might run out of money.
Right.
If we have to mobilize 3 more times, or we have to be out there 6 more weeks, we don't have payroll to cover 6 more weeks because we're not going to get paid. If you're a medium to maybe large size company, you can weather a bad job. But then the risk is, like I said, it's reputational risk.
Right.
It's I might lose my job because I didn't know what I was doing. So the stress matters. It's relative to what kind of company you're in. But overall, nobody wants to be part of a bad job, I don't think. And I think on your side too, right? Field guys, and I'm sure a good PM does not want to put on his resume that he was the PM on a failing job. Just like a CFO or a controller does not want to look at red bleeding all over the page all day, every day, because it's not good, is what it is.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it matters. It's
Well,
just
so
relative.
I just always wondered that because like you're sitting in the office and you don't get up to the building, maybe ever.
Mm.
And so you're just like, there's this distance and unable to, lack of control. Like I see it going down the toilet and I can't fix it. I don't know how. Could I put on a hard hat and boots and go out there and manage this?
Right.
Well, that's
There's
not
nothing I
my,
can do about this.
right. I've often
That's
wondered
a
if
good
that was a
point.
big piece of that.
I think that's a good point. And I think the field is the opposite though. The field is if I come out to the field and tell the super or the PM who I see down, like down the hallway one day, they can do something about it.
Yeah.
I think.
Mhm.
Oh, well, they just work faster.
Right.
Oh, well, they just get rid of half the crew.
Right.
Oh, they
right.
just work through the rain but you're going to be like, I can't go any faster on this
Yeah,
job. I'm tied by the contract and I can't do it. And we're behind 2 other. So
Yeah.
I think both sides have a little education on that.
Yeah, I can say for sure that I know I've talked to superintendents about this over the years. As a project manager, I lived in a little bit both worlds,
Mm-hmm.
but I can tell you for sure that guys that are out in the field as a superintendent or a foreman or whatever, they're 100%. I hate to say it's a class thing, but it is almost a class thing. It's I wear boots and you wear loafers, and you have no idea what it's like to bust my ass out here for 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day.
I think it's back to the idea of what's a successful project. This is where risk
How do you
kind of for
define
us
it?
is over.
Yeah, define success.
If a superintendent finishes the job and gets to demob and the building is standing and he or she gets to walk away and go home at night and the job's done, that might be a successful job to that superintendent. But the office might think that job was a catastrophic fit. We lost money, we lost reputation, we had, it's 2 different parts of the same machine.
There's a large part of it. I thought this way for a long time. We don't teach project managers or superintendents to be business people. That's not what when you're a carpenter, say for example, and you're coming up through the trades, they're not teaching you things about business. They might be talking to you about production to a certain degree, and maybe you work for a larger company and you get labor reports that your foreman tells you here's where we are on labor, guys. We need to do better. That's possible, but it's not much more than that.
Right.
You're
It's not budget management.
No,
It's not-
and even project managers they're brought up to, you learn how to write a contract, you learn how to scope things, you're dealing with money and budgets. But it's not taught in a business analytics way. It's not taught in a how does this feed the larger beast and how to do. I mean, maybe today, I'm kind of an old guy now, but maybe today that's taught about, doing a little bit more analytics on that. The most analytics we did was on the schedule.
Do you know what we used to do every start of a project at my old company? We used to take the field crew to the first week of every job. The office crew to the field and let them see the job. Put on a hard hat. The women would put on hard hats and they would walk around in there, and get it, like, to understand what they're doing.
We did that for topping outs.
Yeah, you do it topping out as well. But like, understand what you're talking about, right? And what's what.
So Greg and I, we like to spar about this a little bit because we come from the two sides of the equation.
Yes,
But
both sides mentioned there in the question.
Yeah,
we have a good background.
However, and I've experienced a lot of emotion on this side of the equation. The operations thinks it's your job. But the truth of the matter is it is both. You're right. It depends on what process you're talking about and maybe what, level of the cake you're happen to be talking about at the time. But truth is everybody is just kind of depends on what it is you're talking about in the moment.
Yeah, if we're breaking risk down into the two biggest pieces here, let's just say financial risk to the project and operational risk to the project, then it's obviously everybody.
Sure.
Agreed.
And that's all we have for this episode of Construction Hot Takes. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget that you can follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts at Construction Hot Takes. And while you're at it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel too at Ascent Consulting. If you want to drop a thumbs up or comment on your favorite video, that'll go a long way in helping our channel. And lastly, if you want to schedule a call directly with Adam, Greg, or Jeff to talk about problems or challenges facing your own construction companies, you can schedule free consultation calls directly with them on our website, www.ascentconsults.com. Again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.